Deep characteristics of product backlog. The product backlog has deep characteristics. Deep stands for an acronym and D is for detailed appropriately. E for estimated. Next E for emergent and the final P is for prioritized. So first is detailed appropriately. Higher priority items are described in more detail than the lower priority items. Because of this, requirements are discovered, decomposed and refined throughout the entire project. Next is estimated. The product backlog items are estimated. Fine-grained ones in story points or in ideal days, whereas the coarse-grained ones at the bottom of the backlog will be as epics, which are very large user stories. Then emergent. The product backlog is an organic entity. It evolves and changes frequently. It is a live document and it is never complete. New items are added. Existing items are modified, removed or refined continuously. Then prioritized. The PBIs or the items of the backlog are prioritized. The most important one is on top, whereas the least one will be at the bottom. And once an item is completed, it will be removed from the product backlog. Be very clear about it. Once you are done with the item, you have to remove it from the product backlog. As shown, the prioritization level in the backlog determines the level of detail in the backlog. If it is a high priority item, it will be clearly defined. If it is a low priority item, it will be less clearly defined. So the fine-grained items on the top of the backlog are ready for the next iteration, as it is shown here. These are fine-grained. The slice is very small. You can break it down even further. That is, make it smaller user stories or smaller set of features which can be delivered. In the mid area, you have medium-grained items. These are large user stories. And towards the bottom, we have coarse-grained items. From here to here, these are very large user stories or epics. So as it is said, the prioritization level in the backlog will determine the level of detail in the backlog, to what extent it will be clearly defined. To recap, the deep characteristics of product backlog. D, detailed appropriately. E, estimated. Next E, emergent. And the final P is prioritized. Related to it, I have a tip which is telling you, remember the deep characteristics of the product backlog. Now I have a sample, a working sample of product backlog with Microsoft Project software tool, which is also an Agile software tool. In the below figure, a sample product backlog is drawn with Microsoft Project. The backlog shown has features such as log into the system, create a new user, buy a stock, log out of the system, transfer a stock, delete an user. So this is the theoretical representation and this is the actual tool based representation. And you can add as many backlog items you want just by clicking on this new task. So new backlog items will get added. Another thing is you can drag and drop. You can take this backlog item. If it is a low priority, then you can pull it down. Or if it is a high priority, you can pull it up. And also you can estimate the product backlog items. The estimate will be available next to it and you can put whether it is 3, 5, 8 or 13 or 20 story points. So this is a practical representation of a product backlog with the help of Microsoft Project 2019 software tool.